Happy Friday and happy quarantine, guys. My name is Kat Navarro-Lee, and I'm going to be doing some interviews with folks in the entertainment business, talking about the highs and lows of a career in entertainment, which can be very unstable, and how that intersects with their faith and their belief in God. My next interview is going to be with actor Cress Williams, who is also known as Black Lightning on the hit TV show. Now, some people know this, but not everyone. Cress was actually an acting coach, an acting teacher in Los Angeles for many years when he was already a working actor. And he taught for free on Saturdays. I was actually one of his students. So he's so much like his character, Black Lightning, a hero. Thank you, Cress, for taking the time to do this interview. And thank you guys for watching. What are you doing? I mean, the last time I saw you and Kristen
Yeah.
was at Comic-Con.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I mean, like it's the antithesis of this, right? Comic-Con's just massive amounts of people all in one place, and now we're all separated.
I know. How are you guys staying occupied during this time?
Basically, I mean, we have, three kids. I mean, a teenager and two real little ones, and so they dominate the time. I love working out, so that's kind of the normal routine. I mean, we're in Atlanta, and we're both hardcore Californians, so uh, it's I guess for us it's not as extreme because we don't really go out a lot. Um,
Yeah.
it's challenging with the kids. They my teenager misses school. My 4-year-old was in kind of preschool, and so that was uh, fun for him. But we have a 4-year-old and then we have an almost 2-year-old. So the upside is that they're really bonding and they're playing together a lot, and at the right age where they can entertain each other. So
Nice. I know. Had seen some pictures and they're so cute.
yeah, it's pretty awesome. But I mean, I think uh, at night we watch Netflix movies, TV shows, and um, throughout the day it's kids, it's exercise. My wife Kristen just got a ukulele, so I think she's going to try and learn that, and she does some painting and um, yeah, just stuff at home.
Cool. Well, I definitely wanted to interview you when I was thinking about, positive people in the entertainment business and people of faith, because you've been such a
Yeah,
influence in my life too, having been an acting coach to me and so many others that I know. So I wanted to
yeah,
just see kind of like your faith, how it plays a role in your everyday life, especially in uncertain times like now,
right,
and the career that that you've
yeah.
chosen is so always uncertain too. So how do you kind of navigate that?
Well, if anything, I feel like uh, this whole career choice is kind of it it forces you, hopefully, to lean into your faith more, because it's an unpredictable career. I think if I was what I kind of call non-actors or non-people in industries, if I was a civilian and my job was just kind of laid out a certain way, other than the quarantine time, I think the quarantine time just kind of catapults everybody into uncertainty. But in everyday life, there's not a lot of uncertainty. You know that in a lot of professions, you have a job and your hours and when your paycheck's coming. So I think it probably would be easier to be a little bit more complacent. Whereas in this industry, it's so unpredictable,
Hmm.
and so much of it is seemingly not dependent. Sometimes not dependent on craft or physical types, or I mean there's so many different variables that go into this that it I think if done right, it forces you to really go, okay, all I have is my faith.
Hmm.
And and to be honest, it's like if I didn't have God, I couldn't do this. I think I'd have to go abandon all hope and go do something else. I mean, realistically though, because it's just so, sometimes it doesn't seem to follow the laws of fairness. And I talk with people all the time that this industry is not, it's not like sports or even like medicine where if you can do the job, then you're just really like, if you're the best surgeon, you're gonna be doing surgeries. Like
Yeah,
you're gonna be catapulted. If you're a basketball player and you can really put the ball in the hoop, then it you're gonna be successful. It doesn't matter who your parents are. It doesn't matter if you're rich. It doesn't matter if you're young or old or anything. Well, it doesn't matter how many social media followers you have. It's like, but in this industry, there's all these other variables that don't have to do with skill or training or heart or any of these things that can decide things. And so, with faith is you have something higher than all of that, than industry, than social media, that is like, no, there's a God that's looking out for me, that's
right.
overseeing this. Um, and I've seen time and time again things that I thought I wanted that I didn't get. And then, after the fact, it kind of feel like it was revealed to me like, oh, that would have been a horrible experience. That wasn't mine, like
Wow.
to begin with, So, it's a tough industry, but it coupled with my faith, I think makes my faith stronger.
I love hearing stories like that where you can look back at opportunities that didn't go the way you thought they would and think,
Yeah.
well, I'm exactly where I need to be. And
Yeah.
so, do you have stories in your life like where you felt that whatever happened was exactly God? Things were just difficult, or you didn't see a way possible, and things turned out, and you knew that it was something higher than yourself.
You know what? I have so many. I mean, because I mean, I wouldn't say it happens constantly, but I've been in this business a while, and so it's definitely happened. I mean, I remember when I was back in California, and this is before Black Lightning, and it was actually during they were starting the audition process for Luke Cage, and on Netflix. And I've always wanted to play a superhero, and there's not very many black superheroes out there. And this one came, and we were in some tough. We were kind of actually about to move into some really tough financial times. We were kind of there, but like we hadn't seen the worst of it yet. And I had this audition for Luke Cage, and it went like phenomenal. And I just felt like, yeah, I nailed that. And then I knew one of the writers on the show, and he reached out to me like shortly after, just saying, "Oh my God, we were just watching your tape, and dude, you killed it. It was awesome. It was awesome." And it just felt like there was a sense of, at least for me, it was like, oh, this is going to be my job. And then probably a little bit before that Thanksgiving of that year, some article popped up, and it was like, these are the people who are in running for Luke Cage, and my name was nowhere to be found. So I was like, oh, I guess that's over. And then like I remember the day before Thanksgiving, he reached out to me. He's like, don't lose hope. And I'm like, no, I heard it was pretty much done. He's like, no, man, it's not. And then the next day, he's like, oh, sorry, I did all I could. And it was something it wasn't kind of the run of the mill job, because it was something that all my friends knew I wanted really badly. And
Yeah.
it felt like it was going to be my job. It felt like it was the perfect fit. Um, but the interesting thing is, like, it was something that was going to shoot in New York. And when it came around to the time that it was shooting, there were so many things that were going on in my life personally, that it was kind of a God showing, like, okay, so if this had happened and you had gotten this job, you would be in New York right now, and you could see all the things that are going on, that it would have been a disaster. Not even from a work standpoint, but just simply, would have not have been a time that I should have been in New York. And for my family and personal, it would have been. Um, my wife and I often talk about. It's like that would have been impossible. Like
Hmm.
it would have been horrible. And then what was really interesting is we went into a very tough financial time. where we didn't know how we were going to make rent. And I remember Christmas came around, we're like, I don't know if we can get a tree and all these, and God was just providing provision time and time again. I mean, a residual check shows up and you at the right time. Also, like, just, we had this mysterious benefactor where a couple of occasions we come home and in the mailbox was just an envelope with some money in it.
What?
Um,
Did you ever find out who it was?
Never found out. Never,
What?
because they made a point, like, there wasn't a return address, and they really made a point. Whoever it was just, like, no, we're going to help you, but we don't want to be known. I would assume that they were Christians, and we have our suspicions of, like, which friends it might have been. Um, but that happened, like, more than once, just getting us through this really tough time. And then, Black Lightning came along, and we packed up and moved to Atlanta. And in a very, very short period of time, we went from, extreme debt and avoiding phone calls and worried about, debtors, to just going, okay, we've wiped it away now. And, but also, even in the midst of that, because I do believe that God, like, when he's doing things, he can do everything. So he does multiple things at once. And, for us, during the time when we were really in financial straits, I felt like he really revealed, like, when you are out of this time, how you should live your life.
Mhm.
And so those lessons, I think, we still carry with us today. And, um, and the thing is like, yeah, I mean, personally, the Luke Cage thing would have not been good. But then he still gave me another superhero opportunity. So.
That is a miracle story.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Well, and I think also because you have been such a light to other people, that it's not surprising that those people would be motivated to want to help you out, even if it's mysteriously.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Were there ever times where you wanted to give up on this career, do something else?
Yeah, there was plenty of times. It was interesting. I went to college and studied theater, and acting was something I knew I wanted to do since I was a child. So there was, I mean, in the whole time, from the moment when I was a kid and as I studied, there was never any shred of doubt. It was just, I'm going forward, and partly it wasn't just me. I felt like God was, even as a kid, was always kind of revealing to me, like, no, this is what you're supposed to do. And so I can be just, I don't know, blind. If it's like, if I feel like God's saying you're supposed to do it, I'm like, cool, then that big part is answered, so I'm just going to move forward. So but there was a time, it was, oddly enough, it was like, I taught for like 8 years, and
Mhm.
right during my first year, probably in the first months of teaching, um, I wasn't really working. And when my oldest daughter was born, through the course of her pregnancy with my ex-wife, it was my first child, and I was just going to we were just going to doctor's appointments and everything. And then she was born, and it wasn't until she was born and kind of the dust settled, and even shortly after she was born, my father, like, passed away, like, almost right after she was born. So it wasn't until all that settled that I stopped and looked around and realized, wait, I haven't worked for a year. And that had never been my reality, like, ever.
Mhm.
um and then after that point, I had slowly started teaching, and I really enjoyed teaching. um but things were just not working out, like, I mean, from a business standpoint. And so I had many a night during that season where I'm just lying in bed going, God, am I supposed to do something else? Like, is this, like, this is over now and it's time to do something else? And uh the only thing I think that really saved it was that God didn't reveal anything else. That
Mhm.
there was, like, literally nothing. I mean, when I had just started teaching, and I purposely was teaching on Saturdays so that I would always have the week free, and so that I figured that would be the best opportunity for me to be able to teach consistently without canceling, if I booked a job or whatever. And I was enjoying it, and I was like, wait, am I supposed to be teaching? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Like, I'm supposed to hang this up and go teach? And even when I would go to class, like all the years that I taught, and as much as I loved it, there was never a single class that didn't go by where I just wanted to tell whoever I was talking to just sit down. I got it. I'll do it. Like, and it was those moments when I was just like, yeah, no, I'm totally still a doer. I mean, I taught for 8 years, and that instinct never went away. Like, obviously, I didn't act on it, but it was like inside there was something in me. It was like, no, I want to do this instead. Sit down. I got this. Let me show you how to do it.
That would have been funny.
Yeah, I would have been like the worst teacher ever. But that just showed me like, okay, well, you're not telling me I need to teach. And there was no other thing, nothing even remotely came up.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like, well, I have no choice but to keep going.
Right. I think sometimes people think a sign is going to pop out of the sky. It doesn't always happen like that, but I think just keeping on.
Well, and I remember, I mean, I did get like moments. I think like when I got to my lowest points, I had moments of encouragement. Like I remember going through this weird season, auditioning for multiple things, and each audition would go well, and the people in the room would be raving, and then the feedback would come back where they were like, "Oh, you were great. You're their first choice," and then there'd be a but. There'd be you're their first choice, but they want to see if they can find a local hire. You're their first choice, but the directors absolutely love you, but the producer wants somebody else. And the first couple of times it happened, I was encouraged, and I was like, okay. But then it was like, I mean, it was a season of happening. Like this was like this type of thing was happening for months. So by the end of it, I was just like, what's going on? I hate this. But then I had to stop for a moment and just realize, wait a minute. I think it's God telling you, like, I know this sucks, but keep going. Because, I mean, anybody who's auditioned out there knows that there's only a small percentage. The majority of time you audition for something, if you don't get it, you don't hear anything.
Right.
You leave the room and the only thing you hear is if you look it up later and go, oh, that person got it. Like, you don't always get feedback. But this was I was consistently getting feedback, and it was consistently going, yeah, you're great. Yeah, good job, but. So I was like, well, if I was supposed to do something else, then it would just be silent as opposed to like,
you're
great.
That validation that you were doing something right.
And then the weirdest thing was that like literally a year later, one of those yeah buts was for a show called Friday Night Lights, and it was like you did great, but they want to find a local hire. So about a year or so later, I get an audition. It's like, oh, it's an audition for Friday Night Lights, and the name of the character, I was like, why does this name look familiar? And I start reading it, and it's obviously the writing slightly different. It's been a year, but like the scenario seems like similar. And I was like, wait a minute, is this what I auditioned for like a year ago? And they were like, yeah, they wound up getting a local hire at that time, and the part was much smaller then, and they shot it, but that didn't work out. Now they want to expand this part, and they feel like it was a fit then. They just want to see if it's still a fit now. And then I wound up booking that, and it was like a strong, reoccurring that was really one of my favorite jobs ever. And so that was it's just one of those weird moments where you're like, well played, God, well played.
Right? Because it's so long after you like completely forgotten about it.
Literally over a year later. And I was like, wow. And it was one of those early ones of like, you were great, but, and it came back around.
Great, but, wow. Yeah. Do you think that if you had a job like Black Lightning early in your career, that you would be as humble and down to earth as you are?
Oh my God. Well, thank you first of all for saying that. That's sweet. I mean, I don't know. It's not even about humility. It's just early in my career, if I had gotten something this substantial, I think I just would have imploded and messed it up. I mean, early in my career, I went through some real tough challenges because I had come from, college theater, and it was such a tight-knit community, and of artists, and it was always about the art, and it was just it was really such a great environment. You're never alone, um, and then I went into show business, thinking that it was going to be exactly the same. The only
Hmm.
difference is you're getting paid for it, and that's not really the case at all. Like, especially being an actor in Los Angeles can be, um, in and of itself, can be extremely lonely if you don't create community for yourself.
Right.
And it's and the people reaching, wanting things from you, and uh, can be strange. I was used to, like, when people, when you're doing theater, you're doing these, like, just award-winning playwrights from Shakespeare, The Shepherd, all these different things. And
Hmm.
when people say, like, they applaud you, and you're like, yeah, that was. But then when you're in television, sometimes it can be kind of fluffy, and it's like that. That was weird for me to get, like,
Hmm.
all this recognition for something that I was like, whatever. Like, it,
Right. You're like, this is okay.
yeah, this is exactly. And so when I first got into the business, I went through a really challenging time. And so I think in that early part of it, if this had happened, I just don't think I would have handled it well at all. And it probably, I mean, I believe God is good, and He would have brought me back around, but I think it would have been a harder road, probably a more destructive road.
Right.
And it probably would have taken longer for me to come back to Him.
Yeah. Well, I guess all things happen as they should. And you have
Yeah.
your beautiful family.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm so thankful that I mean, we're here and that we're all together, when we're at dinner and around the table, and just thankful that we're healthy and well. And I think it's like so many people around the world. It's like in a lot of ways, I feel like we're blessed than most. And I think, there's certain scenarios that make this situation better. Um, I had finished my season, so it wasn't like, I know a lot of actors who were in the middle of doing something, and the virus hit and they got shut down. Like, I was just talking to one of my old castmates from Heart of Dixie, and she was like 2 episodes into a show when it was like shut down.
Wow.
Um, and she was in Canada, and she, like, just made it out of Canada before they closed the borders and stuff. And so, I had finished my season, and there wasn't any
Hmm.
outstanding job that I was up for. There were a lot of things that I had auditioned for and didn't get, and I'm like, wow, okay, well, those things didn't shoot anyway, so I guess it's fine. But I'm thankful that we're all under the same roof, and we're safe and well, and in some ways we're thriving, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad to hear that you and the family are healthy.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank you.
so much for taking the time to do this. And please give my love to Kristen. And hopefully,
I
we'll see
will.
you again if you guys come visit Cali or if I go over there and visit.
Yeah, yeah. Or, we're Californian, so we will be moving home at some point.
Okay. Well, so many people here will be raising the roof when you come back. We'll throw you a welcome back party.
Yay.
All right. Thank you so much. And
You're
big
welcome.
hugs.
Yes,
All
stay
right.
safe. Stay well.
You too. Thank you so much.
Right. You're
Bye.
welcome. Bye.